For the past 14 years, Shell Marie has been changing lives in ways you might not expect. Across 7 countries, she's helped thousands of people uncover and heal the deep-rooted struggles behind their symptoms. She believes that human beings are self-sabotaging their true potential. So today, on Transforming the Game, let's tap into the incredible power of the subconscious. Hello, Michelle, and welcome. I am so excited to have you on my podcast today, and we're going to be talking all things about self-awareness, perception of others, and just how do you make the change to be happier in your life. How have you been?
Oh, thank you. I have been incredible. Thanks. I am very excited for the start of 2025 and exactly embodying what you have just suggested. So I can't wait to dive into it.
Excellent. So, we live in a world that is just full of instant gratification and instant reward. And you work daily in an area that isn't that tangible to some in the energy world, in the subconscious. How do you explain what you do to someone on the street?
I mean, yeah, they've got to be ready to hear it. And ultimately, I feel the way that I explain it, it'll either go straight through to the keeper or they will grasp it. And essentially what we all are, no matter what roles that we play, we are all energy at the end of the day. We are all have not only a human part to ourselves and a physical body, but we have a spirit within us and an energy force. And all of that really basically is, in the science of that, is we're different vibrations made up of different protons, electrons, and neurons put together. So there is an absolute science to that. But how I explain to people what we do or what I do, for instance, is whatever it is that you're experiencing, the pain that you experience, your body knows why it's there. Your body has the answers within, because we can always find what is in the root source of the things that are either blocking you or the things that you want to acquire in your world. So, people might hear that and they might not, and that's okay. That's totally fine.
Yeah. See, listen, you're about listening to your body, right? So you're trying to get people to understand how to listen to their body. Now, I've my auntie is actually a kinesiologist, so I have been involved in this space and had treatments from my auntie before I knew what it was when I was a teenager, where she was balancing my hips out or balancing my body out, and I wouldn't have even appreciated the benefits I was reaping from that until actually I left home, went to university, stopped getting those treatments, and really found a misalignment in my hips, found a misalignment in what I was doing, and I would seek out people to rebalance me. That's just some benefits I would get. I would feel grounded. If my body was even hurting, I would find sometimes it would heal it. So I would get some good benefits. What have you found with your clients, the certain benefits or that people have left after having a treatment or seeing you?
Yeah. Well, you're absolutely right. Like the body knows how to heal itself. That is fundamentally a belief and a knowingness that I live by. The body knows how to heal itself. We've just got to firstly understand how it's been trying to communicate, and it might not look like the way that you feel it should be communicating or the way that we have been taught to understand our body. It's out of the constraints of our own, I guess, learned systems through other conventional ways of treating. So with that in mind, the body knows how to heal itself. Like, people come in and it starts with a physical symptom. Initially, they're just like, hey, I've got this cough. Like, I'm just thinking of a client yesterday. She had this cough that just wouldn't go away. It's been there for months now. And it led us to so many different areas of where the referred pain was actually from stress in her shoulders. When we don't adequately address our stress, the stress gets stored in our body, then our body turns to operate in a compensated state. And when it's in that compensated state, other things start to compensate, other areas of the body, other systems of the body, our emotions, our energy, our mental capacity, the way everything starts to get a little bit off center. So the word balance is absolutely accurate, but on so many meanings of it. Like, we want to balance your body so your body can find balance and live from its most optimal state of health. So people come in with anxiety, people come in with physical symptoms like they can't shed specific weight, there's sleep issues that they're just like, I'm waking up at these particular times of the night, I clench my jaw, I have these tension headaches, my mind is so scattered. Anything and everything comes through, and the body always knows why it's reacting in that way. And so that's fundamentally what I always tell them. Like, doesn't matter what you have, in inverted commas, your body knows why it's reacting in that way.
I've found that before in even treatments I've had where I've gone in and gone, I just feel off, or I just feel like I'm a bit foggy, or it might be something as light as that. And you go in and then you guys start asking these questions and doing these things and tapping my arm. And next thing you know, you're getting me to say these statements. And next thing you know, there's tears rolling down my face. And I didn't even realize I was subconsciously stewing on this, or I was subconsciously sitting on this data and information that had happened weeks, months, years ago. And then once you started to unravel things like that, you release it, your body goes, oh, okay, I know what's going on, I can deal with it. And then every time, like the symptoms, whatever it was, or the anxiety or the fog, or like my hips, depending what it was, would dissipate.
Totally.
So it's amazing, the power of the body.
It is. Like, the thing with, we often forget that our body is always trying to help us out. And I think we are the first people to, you know, shame our body, reject our body, feel let down by our body, and really ridicule our body because we think it's not doing the things that we want it to do the way that we want it to do it. But it's always trying to support us. It's just so when we're saying that there's stuff that or emotions that we had no idea had an effect on us, at that time, your conscious mind or your subconscious may have been like, that was a stress. This is too much for us to be able to understand or really unpack. Now we don't have the wisdom to understand it. So we're just going to park it. We're going to hold it, and we're going to do the things that we know in order to protect ourselves. So when anything similar like that comes again, we know how to either avoid or suppress or perform or behave. And so that stress is still there, though. That stress is still there, that the body is working in and around. And so when we start to address the symptoms of what that stress has now created, the fogginess, i.e. the tension headaches, i.e. the emotional outbursts that we have with our partner, and we're like, damn, that reaction did not seem to justify from what the actual stimulus was. And you're like, damn, where did that come from? It's because we have no idea what has been compounding in our subconscious to have then, you know, tipped us over that edge to react in that way. And we're not saying that those reactions are in a way justifiable, but there's always a reason why that's there, and your body knows. And no one wants to lose their marbles, but it happens.
It's like the straw that breaks the camel's back, right?
Yes.
There's just, it's been stacking and stacking, and then that's that one, and then your body goes, I'm done.
It reaches that threshold. Yeah, you're right.
How do we get people, what would be your tips then? How do we get people to start listening to their body and not going, oh, this headache isn't because I'm sitting in front of the screen or whatever? Like, how do people know when it's a symptom because I kicked my toe on my toe sore, or when it's something that needs work?
Yeah, great question. I think it starts with offering the space for yourself to just really sit in that discomfort for a second, because we're always so programmed to go, like, if we're sitting down, then it's not productive. It's just like, damn, this headache is annoying me. I've got stuff I need to do, so I'm just going to quickly take a Panadol, to quickly take something to get through it. So that's the mentality that we've got to start to unlearn, like having our space to rest and really dial into the way that our body is communicating. Like, pain is communication. The body is saying that I'm in misalignment right now, I'm in a state of stress, and start to inquire, like, okay, so what is this headache really revealing? And if you sit with yourself and not have your logical mind try to override it every single moment, you will start to hear intuitively what your body needs to hear. And you might find tears start to run down, and then you're probably going to doubt or judge yourself because you're like, oh my God, why am I crying? There's no logical reason for me to be crying right now. And all those states of judgment need to start to be seen through the lens of compassion, because even though it might not seem in the ways that we've been programmed now to be justifiable to crying right now, your body is just releasing that energy. All it is just a response to energy that's been suppressed, trapped, distorted, interfering. You've got to let yourself to have the space to be able to process that, so your body can recalibrate with no longer holding that stress.
I like that. So that's bringing it into becoming self-aware of, and not judging yourself, of going, okay. And would you say accepting your emotion at that time of going, okay, I'm sad right now, I'm allowed to be sad, but maybe not need to dwell on it. So don't play the victim card to go, I'm a sad person. Go, okay, I'm sad in this moment, that's okay, it's time to move on.
Yeah.
So is that when we move then into the subconscious realm of this, because everyone's walking around with a slightly jaded reality. What my reality is to a situation is different to how you might perceive it, depending on what's happened in your day, your life, and the people around you. So when it comes to sitting with yourself, that is a difficult thing to do.
1,000%.
That
Yeah.
that is a lot of loud noises in a lot of people's heads, even though you're sitting with yourself. That's a lot of judgment. That's a lot of all these things that come from your subconscious and your values and things that have been stored that you don't even realize. What's the process for you to help people realize what's real and what's their reality, and to get a grasp on their subconscious mind viruses, if you like?
Yeah, beautiful question. Look, I totally get it. Like, it is the most uncomfortable space to sit with yourself sometimes and really hear all the things that are slingshotting in and around your mind and in your body. And it can feel like the better, easier option is to band-aid with a solution of just taking something and masking that. So it is challenging to really sit with that initially until you start to build through the work. I mean, obviously I will advocate my work because it's moved and transformed my life, my family's life, my extended family's life monumentally. So through the lens of kinesiology, until you start to build that energetic subconscious infrastructure within yourself, aka learning how safe it is with respect to your body in knowing in processing the emotions that are buried, build the infrastructure within yourself to go down and trust that you can start to now unearth these blocks, these unresolved emotions, these experiences that have left imprints from our childhood that we didn't realize affected us, that are still playing out and affecting our behavior and our beliefs on ourselves to this day. We then start to see it as it's all just energy, and it doesn't have to be from the meaning that we give it. Like, we made a meaning about it, a sadness, like, hey, no confident person should feel sad. Like, we've put our judgments on what these emotions should be or what they are, but ultimately they're just different qualities of energy. So if you could just receive that energy in the form that it's just energy, like, yeah, it might feel and show up in what we perceived and judged sadness to be. And that might come out as, tears, and that might come out of just feeling really low in energy, because that is another lower energy frequency. So once you allow yourself to just see it as energy, see it as it's just something that needs to be expressed in the whichever way it needs, let it go, then your body will be able to now start to recalibrate. So it's just, I guess, seeking out the spaces where you're able to feel comfortable in letting these slowly surface and being okay to work with your body and not against your body.
Yeah, okay. And you're saying that kinesiology transformed your life. What was the moment? Why did kinesiology have such an impact for you?
Oh, I could list a million and one, but the most significant was at first from not being able to public speak. I found I struggled to be able to articulate my words. The words would get stuck in my throat. My mind's just like, what the heck? Like, my mind would disassociate. My heart would start racing, and I would have these panic attacks in situations that didn't really need to, in my opinion, again, that's a judgment, but it didn't replicate the stress that I was experiencing to the stimulus of in the environment of where I was at. And so it used to infuriate me, used to get me so upset, frustrated with myself, but then also just fearful of this expression. So in those moments when I would go to a kinesiologist, and I didn't know anything, just the way that I stumbled in kinesiology was really quite profound. I felt like it found me. And I was trying to articulate this to my kinesiologist. I'm like, I just don't know, when I'm in those states of stress, I can't express it. The words won't come out. I'm in that much of an emotional reaction that those words won't come out. And the beauty of it was they were like, you don't need to say anything. Your body is talking. This stress response is your body talking. So the relief I felt and the tears I felt when I'm like, I don't need to find the words to say it because it's already happening, was the biggest healing moment for me. And then time, layer after layer, stress after stress, and we move several layers at a time, we understood that I never felt safe to be able to speak up in my household. I was the youngest of 5 very dominant personalities. I was the 5th dominant personality, but in that space. And mum was never really, and this is just, I can say this so comfortably now, like, dad was never physically around, mum was emotionally not available. My voice didn't matter. It felt that way in that moment to me. So then to be in a space where I was to share my opinion and who I was, the reactions of feeling inferior was all coming through. I could start to, and your story will only make sense to you mostly because it's your story. And you're just like, and every part of you will feel it. You will feel the relief. You'll feel the wisdom. You'll feel the compassion. And you're just like, holy shit, that makes so much sense. And then the healing process begins. You've brought it up to the conscious mind. You can see it. And with that, you let it go. And like, the ability to be able to say the things that I want to say when I want to say it, when I'm stressed, when I'm happy, is just the most moving thing. But then also in the loss of my dad, he died to mesothelioma. Kinesiology really supported me through that whole grieving period of watching him slowly deteriorate, and all the meanings I gave to what life will be like when he's gone. Do I have his approval? Did I have his approval? Am I good enough for him? And all those things that you don't consciously really think of, but they're there and they play out.
And that's so critical and key here, where it's things you might think you have the control, or you might think you've sorted out all of that, the drama and the neglect and everything that might have happened in your past, or it's the perceived stories that you've been telling yourself to make yourself feel better. But then I heard someone ask a great question going, oh, but if I could give you the keys to turn it around, would you, like, because you're like, oh, that's great, that was meant to be, would you do it? And the answer is usually no. I'd try and find a way. And understanding that what actually is deep in your subconscious and is actually driving decisions, is actually driving, your fear of not being able to speak. You wouldn't have known until you had the right person to start to unravel what is going on. And then when you get that aha moment of going, oh, now I get it, you become self-aware, you get that perception of yourself, of others, of what, of how when you're talking, how they're feeling. And then you also, I guess, get that real reality of sometimes when you're speaking and they're not connecting, it's because they've got other stuff going on in their head. And I think that helps the community in life and in your career and everything you're doing.
Because you're no longer responding when you're starting to look at these stresses and these unconscious triggers that do direct your your conscious world. Like, even though your mind's just like, do the thing, but every part of you is like pulling up this resistance, and you can't piece together why you're responding in that way, which can then create more frustration. Like, your subconscious will always dominate your conscious, will always support you in believing that it's keeping you safe over keeping you happy and doing the things that you think that you want to do. So until you address what it believes is protecting you from, then you're never going to be able to move past that, because it's always going to be overriding your conscious mind. And so it then gives you that empowerment to no longer be interacting with people from a reactive state, or from a state that you are coming from with blind spots. You are coming from a state of neutrality, because you're no longer getting, I guess, trying to balance out. No, what's the word? Like, I think minimize or balance out the triggers and reduce the ability of how much they have an effect. They're just no longer there. They're just completely neutral. And so, yes, you can see compassion with the people when they're in that. There's no charge.
Attached to this. It's just neutral ground.
Yeah. And so you do start to hold more compassion for the people that are in that, because you're like, they're just in that state. They're not meaning to be. No one wants to be in a reactive state. No one wants to be a nasty person, but we're just operating from the tools and the software that we have playing out, like you said, with the viruses that have attracted within our software. So until we clean that up, then we're always going to be working from a compensated state.
What would be one of the biggest transformations you've seen in someone that's come to see you?
Oh, I got chills. The women that have come, like, there's so many. There is so many. Where do I start? From women to men to children, the tears swell up in my eyes. Like, the women that have tried to fall pregnant and seeing that they are able to do that. The women that have held such harsh relationships to themselves and their body, and the judgment that they've held to finally come to a space where they're healing that for themselves. They're loving themselves genuinely and authentically and unapologetically. And the way that shows up is the kindness and the softness they're allowing themselves to feel safe in expressing. And with that, it's replicating in their relationships, and they're trusting in themselves, which therefore they're trusting in people and allowing people in. And they're going for different areas of their life where they used to feel so resentful because they knew they were stunting their growth. They knew that they were resentful for not the environment, but for what they were allowing themselves to settle for within themselves. And so there's children, like they don't want to be caught up in their stuff, and they're so like they're brilliant leaders because they're not concreted in their own stories. They're just like, I just don't feel good. And, you know, the moment it comes up, they're great, they're free, and then they're off to play again. And to see that. I had a 70-year-old man, and he went with the referral of his daughter, who is a client, and this is not his way of approach to health. And as a man, he wants to find the solutions. He wants to be able to, he can't utilize his brute strength, or especially at 70 now, but his brute strength isn't supporting him in this. Money can't, you know, he can't pay, he has to go down this route to understand what's going on. And to see him break down, to then have the awareness, to then go home and connect with his wife, to then find the understanding of how it may have been for his family dynamic, to then come back and be like, I really see that clearly now. And for him to allow himself to not feel guilt over that, but that understanding connects him closer to his family, connects him closer to himself. Like everyone gets positively affected. And
The
that's the
ripple
stuff
effect
that
of
I'm like,
everything.
holy shit, how lucky are we?
Yeah, I love that. I love that, Shell. And it's the butterfly effect of the people you're helping, but then in turn they'll get closer connections with their family, with their relationships, with their customers, with their in their day to day, and then that ripple effect onto becoming a better parent and having more patience and becoming
And
that
then that's
self-aware.
generational, right? Then it's passed on to the generation. So this work is every time we work on ourselves, we are supporting humanity. And it's such a freaking massive statement, but it's true. We are literally helping well beyond our scope of understanding.
Well, if you can do anything that starts to send out a bit more kindness into the world, makes people a bit more ethical, that they're actually looking out and trying to pay it forward. I mean, there is only good that can come
Mhm.
from that, in my opinion.
Yeah,
So
totally.
that is very, very amazing. So I know that you actually work with people online and in person. You can do both. Is there a preference for one way or the other, or is it honestly doesn't matter?
It honestly doesn't matter because we are working with energy. And I know, but I love both. If you're based out in Perth or whenever I'm in your zone, definitely keep you in the loop. However, you are getting the same effect because we are working with your energetic field, which is, you know, in your subconscious, and we're able to access you no matter where you are in the world, no matter what time zone you're in live time. It's like we're working with the speed of light because that's ultimately what we are. And we get to refine and understand what's going on for you. And some people prefer it because if they're like, say, for instance, feeling anxious, aggravated, in an emotional state, physically, you know, incapacitated, being in the comfort of their own home is brilliant for them. They're just like, I can just, you know, perch it up, open my laptop, receive, have the releases in the comfort of my own home, and then close the laptop and just be with themselves. Other people prefer to be outside of their space and come and drop into a new space where they feel held and then leave. So I love both. I do both. I love both and I do both for myself and for my clients.
And it's funny because with that, and you because you're talking the energy and everything, you liken it to Wi-Fi, you liken it to the phone network,
That's
right, and things like
a
that. So
thousand
people,
percent.
you can't physically see a line between you and me right now. I'm in Queensland, you're in WA. We're on opposite
Exactly.
sides of the country, and we are connecting, and that's the same. That's the same thing you're talking about, and you
A
can
thousand
connect with
percent.
people online. I always used to wonder about whether it got a bit muddled when it came to the Wi-Fi or the network for each, or on your phone. I'm like, are you getting all my energy? Or are you getting other people's? Are you getting the phone energy? But it,
Sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I get what you're saying. No, and see, you know, like I love that you said that. Like, so when even oh, look, we could open this right up and this could take it to another place. But we'll keep it in the sphere of just one-to-one communication. Like, so when we are even in person working with energy that is holding stress like anything that is overcharged, if we liken it to electricity, when the house or something gets overcharged and the electrical, current breaks for a moment. There's too much of a charge, it breaks. We have to go to the mains, reset, start it back up. So why did I go there in this conversation right now? Is because that's
I was talking
basically
about
what it's like.
yeah.
We are working in that framework of, yes, you can't see it, but it's very much alive within the frequencies. So if we are finding that within our online balances there is distortion in the network, so like on our physical laptops and stuff like that, that's still data as well, because we're understanding that the energy that's transferring through the internet that we're holding might be too charged. So we have techniques to be able to support that, but ultimately everything is still data, and we still have access to you and what happens to you no matter where you are in the world. Everything is frequency.
Everything is frequency. Everything is frequency, people. So that's what I'm saying. And I say to my kids actually all the time, what you put out, you like once you put that out, you can't take it back. So when they say negative words and they're fighting with each other, I'm like, you can't take that back. You may apologize, but you can't take it back. So everything's frequency, and that's gone out there now. So now you need to do a bit of work to do the positive to get coming back. So I use that.
The dualities.
Yeah, I use that on them just to try and freak them out a little bit. Well, Michelle, it's been an absolute pleasure. Now, I know I recommend to anyone, as I said, I'm a big kinesiology. I've been getting treated since I was a wee young, and I've seen firsthand what the benefits are of just balancing your mind, because I believe you've got to work on yourself physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and everything. So I'm a big believer on that holistic health. If anyone's out there and they haven't even considered it or heard of it before, I recommend going to Michelle's site. We'll have the details down below, and just reach out. And if you're unsure, just have a chat. Michelle's very approachable. She loves to have and tell you just what could happen and what could be, and there'd be no obligation. So thank you so much for
Free call
changing.
for sure, or DM, however you prefer
Yeah,
it.
the ripple effect of what you're doing is amazing, and you'll never actually know of the impact you're having because you only see one, but then it's the ripple as well that you're putting out into the world, and I'm all about paying it forward. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you for
No, I
having me.
appreciate